Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago I did a video on lacing up a Koozer hub, and for the most part it pretty much sucked. It was a case of me figuring it out, and in the end actually I did a really good job of getting the rim true and laced properly, but a lot of it was luck. First thing I did is I determined by looking at another rim just on another bike which hub position, and I call this one, like I designated this is number 1, and on both sides, and then I figured out where number 1 on the other side was by just running something through and to the left, and sure enough that would be number 1 on the brake side. I chose to, and it turns out that when I looked at the park book, you always want to start with the based on the right or the cassette side. So I designated this hole number 1, and going clockwise I got to 16, and on the brake side I determined hole number 1 and went counterclockwise till I got to 16. So what I did mention is how you come up with the equivalent, or how you come up with your spoke length by using the equivalent rim diameter, or ERD. What you do is you take 2 spokes of known length. In this case they're 270s. You put your nipple on so it goes the length of the shaft, but it doesn't go up to the top of the mushroom. So it's just at the top of the shaft there. You can't see it, but take my word for it. You measure this distance, so it'll be 270 plus 270 plus whatever this distance is, and that would be your equivalent rim diameter. Several websites where you can determine your equivalent rim diameter by just plugging in the different dimensions that you have. One of them is the ERD, or the equivalent rim diameter. In this case it's 264 for this one. Drilling offset, this has no drilling offset, the holes are in the center. Okay, the other thing I determined is they're not directional. When I put the spoke in, it hangs straight down, so there's non-directional. From here we can start. Next I lay out 16 spokes for the left and the right. I determined, like I said, this was 272 millimeters for the longer side, which would be the brake side, and it would be 270 for the cassette side, which is your shorter side, because as you can see, the cassette side is closer to the center of the hub, which would be directly under the center of the rim, and here it's just very further away. So this would be the longer spoke on this side and the shorter spoke on this side. So what am I doing here? Well, what I want to do is make sure that each spoke has anti-seize lubrication for when they corrode later on, especially up here on the northwest. So you always want the spokes to, you want the nipples always to be lubricated so they always move smoothly. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and put a little lubricant, anti-seize lubricant, on each of the 16 spokes on the cassette side. Then I'll go on over and I'll do 16. I'll leave the nipples on like that. I know which ones I've done. I'll do the 16 on the other side. Quick mention about these nipples. These are 14 millimeter steel nipples. The reason I prefer these, I actually did a video on this, is they're much stronger than the aluminum or the brass ones. With the aluminum or the brass, when you're done truing your wheel, you want your spoke as close to the end of this as possible, because the strength would be in the spoke. With a metal or a steel nipple, you can have it down a ways and it's still going to be strong. It's not going to, the nipple is not going to break on you. So that just gives me a little more of a slop factor. Although the way I've set the ERD up, when I'm done truing the wheel, I suspect it'll be real close to the end of the spoke. All right, 16 on the left. Lubricate it. Nipples. 16 on the right. 16 lubricated steel, 14 gauge nipples, 14 millimeter nipples. According to the Park Bike Book, you start out with your pilot hole, which would be to the right of where your valve is. So it would be an even number counting clockwise 2. They have you put a tape on it, so the next one, okay, this would be an over, coming down from the bottom and over the top of the flange here. The next one would be 3 over, so, or 4 over actually. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. The next one would go to 6. Then you go 1, 2, 3, and then the 4 would be 10, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. And then you would flip it over and do the same for the other side. What I've done is actually got the ones for the brake side in, 2 for the brake side and 2 for the cassette side. So the opposite. So I, whoops, have this where I want it. Okay, I got the first few spokes in, starting from position 2 on the cassette, or the right side. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4 is the second one. Come over to the next one that comes up and over. We go to 10, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next one is going to be 1, 2, 3. It's going to be 14. And then, of course, 18 is already in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 22, 26, and 30 will be the last one on this first grouping. Then we're going to flip it over. We're going to do the other side. Okay, not counting the 2 that are on the other side here. On the cassette side, I've got the first 8 spokes in. What I am going to do, which is not in the book, is because when you do the ones coming out from the bottom, they come across, and you have to turn the hub like this so they'll fit. And what happens is, a lot of times when you get, with this particular one, and you get it laced up, it's hard to get it to turn over. So I'm going to put 1 or 2 of these cross ones just to hold it in place to the right like that. And then I can always take it out later. So what I've done is I've gone to what I call position 1, which is an under, and I brought it over to 8, which has forced this hub to turn, because once I get everything laced up on the other side, it's going to be really hard to turn this thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. This one, I've tried to lace it last night and it wouldn't go, so I'm starting over again. Okay, I've got all 8 of these in, plus 1 counter one to turn the hub so I can get these last ones in, because they are tough to get in. So what I'm going to do is, it's hard to get these spokes up when you have everything finished on one side, so I'm going to go ahead and put the spokes and just let them hang here. And so they don't fall out, I'll just go ahead and put them up and or through, and then I'll put the nipple on so they don't fall out when I keep flipping the wheel around. Well, I've got what I call all the under spokes ready to be laced in. I made a screw up and I ended up with 1 extra long, and one too few shorts, which means somewhere on this one I have a short where I need to have a long, but oh well. Maybe I'll figure it out later. But with these longer nipples, I should be able to be okay with it. Probably could have got away with 270s all the way around, but that's a little bit of a stretch. So, like I said, I got 272s on this side and 270s on this side. Okay, once you start doing the unders, the pattern is the same. This one comes in, say, at 20, and this next one will come in at 24. Next one after that will come in at 28. Next one after that will come in at 32. Okay, all 16 spokes are in on this side. The pattern is, for the ones that go under, is it's under a spoke, over a spoke, under, over, under, over. And going the other direction, it's over, under. Over, under. That's your 3-cross pattern. Okay, everything is finally laced up. Do a quick check, make sure that I have the under, over. This direction on all of them. And going this direction, it's over, under. Here we go, over, under. Over, under, etc. Well, if it's all the overs are correct, then all the unders are going to be correct. Flip it over. And so all the unders are under, under. I have to think about that for a second. Under and under. So all the unders are correct, and all the overs are. So you got under, over, and you got over, under. So we're good to go. Now all we have to do is true this sucker because everything is loose.